Sarah Chen looked out of her office window on the 30th floor of the National Mark headquarters. The view of the city skyline used to fill her with pride. Today, it only reminded her how far she had risen, and how quickly it could all fall apart. As CEO of National Mart, a chain of retail stores with locations in 37 states, Sarah was facing the biggest crisis of her career. Sales were down 23% compared to last year. Customer complaints had doubled. Employee turnover was at an all-time high. "The quarterly numbers are worse than we expected," said Mark, her CFO, sliding a folder across her desk. "The board is getting nervous." Sarah flipped through the pages, her stomach tightening with each graph pointing downward. "What's happening to my company?" she whispered. National Mart had been her life for 15 years. She had started as a regional manager and worked her way up. When the board named her CEO 3 years ago, it was the proudest day of her life. Now, everything was falling apart. "We need to cut costs," Mark suggested. "Maybe close some underperforming stores, lay off." "No," Sarah interrupted. "I'm not firing people until I understand what's really going wrong." After Mark left, Sarah sat alone in her office. The reports on her desk told her what was happening, but not why. Something was missing. That evening, Sarah was still at her desk when the cleaning lady, Maria, came in. "You worked too hard, Ms. Chen," Maria said with a kind smile. "Everyone else went home hours ago." Sarah looked up. She had seen Maria almost every night for years but realized she knew nothing about her. "Do you shop at National Mart, Maria?" "I used to," Maria replied, emptying the trash can. "But not anymore." "Why not?" Sarah asked, suddenly alert. Maria hesitated. "The stores, they don't feel good anymore. The workers look unhappy. No one helps when you need something." She shrugged. "I go to Target now." After Maria left, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. The reports showed problems, but they didn't tell the human story. Sarah opened her laptop and searched Undercover Boss. She had heard of the TV show where executives disguise themselves to work alongside their employees. The idea had always seemed like a publicity stunt to her. But now, it made perfect sense. The next morning, Sarah called an emergency meeting with her 3 most trusted executives. "I'm going undercover," she announced. "For 1 month, I'll work in our stores as a new employee. No one will know who I am." "That's crazy," said Tom, our head of operations. "You haven't worked a cash register in 15 years. "Exactly," Sarah replied. "I've lost touch with what happens on the front lines." "What about your responsibilities here?" asked Jennifer, the head of marketing. "You 3 will cover for me. Tell everyone I'm visiting our international partners. I'll check in secretly." "And what if someone recognizes you?" Tom asked. Sarah smiled. "They won't. I already called a professional makeup artist who works with movie studios. By tomorrow, I'll be unrecognizable." That night, Sarah went home and looked at herself in the mirror. Her sleek black hair, designer clothes, and confident posture had become her identity. For the next month, all of that would be gone. She would become Linda, a middle-aged woman starting over after a divorce, with no retail experience. Linda would be given the most basic training and the lowest position in the company. Sarah felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She had not done anything this risky since the early days of her career, but deep down, she knew this was the only way to save National Mart. The next morning, she would disappear into her own company. She had no idea what she would find there or how it would change everything. The transformation began at 5:30 a.m. in a small studio apartment downtown. Sarah had rented it under a fake name, paying cash. No one could know what she was doing. Melissa, the makeup artist who had worked on several Hollywood films, arrived with 3 large cases of supplies. She had signed a strict confidentiality agreement. "Ready to disappear?" Melissa asked with a smile. Sarah nodded, though her heart was racing. "Make me someone no one would look at twice." For the next 2 hours, Sarah sat still as Melissa worked her magic. First came the wig, medium-length brown hair with hints of gray, nothing like Sarah's expensive black bob. Then subtle prosthetics changed the shape of her nose and cheekbones. Colored contacts turned her dark brown eyes into a washed-out blue. "The key is changing how you move," Melissa explained as she applied aging makeup to Sarah's hands. "Rich, Powerful people carry themselves differently than someone who's struggled. In the mirror, Sarah watched herself vanish. The confident CEO was replaced by a tired-looking woman in her late 40s. Melissa added the final touches, slightly crooked teeth covers and glasses with a small scratch on one lens. Linda wore no-brand jeans that were a size too large, a faded blue shirt from a discount store, and scuffed shoes. Her nails, normally perfectly manicured, were cut short with chipped polish. "What do you think?" Melissa asked, stepping back. Sarah stared at her reflection. "It's perfect. I don't recognize myself at all." Next came the backstory. Sarah had spent days creating Linda's life. Linda Matthews was 47, recently divorced after 22 years of marriage. Her husband had left her for a younger woman. She had worked as a receptionist but needed a better-paying job. She had 2 grown children who lived in another state. Sarah practiced speaking as Linda, making her voice higher and adding a slight southern accent. She practiced walking with less confidence, shoulders slightly hunched. She even created a cheap-looking resume with typing errors. By 9:00 a.m., Sarah Chen had completely disappeared. Linda Matthews walked out of the apartment building, carrying a worn purse with fake ID, $200 in cash, and a basic phone. The National Mart store number 114 in Westbrook Mall was busy that Tuesday morning. Linda entered through the front doors, looking nervous like any new job applicant would. She approached the customer service desk. "Hi there, I have an interview with the manager," she said, her voice shaking slightly. The young man at the desk barely looked up. "Take a seat. I'll call him." Linda sat on a hard plastic chair near the entrance. 20 minutes passed. No one came. Shoppers walked by, some looking annoyed as they left the store without making purchases. 2 employees chatted by the registers, ignoring customers who clearly needed help. Finally, a balding man in a wrinkled National Mart polo shirt approached. "Matthews? I'm Dave Grunwald, store manager." He didn't offer to shake hands. "Yes, Linda Matthews. Thank you for seeing me. Human Resources sent your paperwork. I need another cashier. Can you start today?" Dave asked, looking at his watch rather than at her. "Today? Yes, I can do that," Linda replied, surprised at the lack of a real interview. "Good, follow me." Dave led her through the store, not bothering to slow down as Linda struggled to keep up. The store looked different from this perspective. She noticed dusty shelves, misplaced products, and fluorescent lights flickering overhead. "This is Angela. She'll train you," Dave said, pointing to a bored-looking woman at register number 4. 30 minutes for lunch, 2 10-minute breaks. Don't be late coming back. With that, he walked away. Angela sighed. "Great. Another newbie." She looked Linda up and down. "You probably won't last a week." "Most don't." As Linda put on the red National Mart vest that Angela tossed to her, she felt a chill. This cold welcome was nothing like the team culture the company's training videos promoted. "Let's get this over with," Angela muttered. "Register training takes 5 minutes. Try not to mess up too much on your first day." Sarah, hidden inside Linda, took a deep breath. This undercover mission was already revealing more than she had expected, and she hadn't even finished her first hour. Linda's first day as a cashier at National Mart store number 114 was worse than she could have imagined. The training consisted of Angela showing her the basics of the register for exactly 7 minutes before being called away to help with a spill in aisle 6. "Just watch what the other cashiers do," Angela said, walking away. "Oh, and don't press the red button unless it's a real emergency." Left alone at register number 5, Linda felt a wave of panic. She, as Sarah Chen, had approved the purchase of these new register systems 2 years ago. They were supposed to be user-friendly and intuitive. Now, facing the complex screen with its dozens of tiny buttons, she realized how wrong that assessment had been. "Next customer, please," Linda called, trying to sound confident. A middle-aged woman with a cart full of groceries approached. "I have coupons," she announced, handing Linda a stack of paper slips. Linda smiled nervously. Of course, no problem. But as she scanned the first item, she realized she had no idea how to apply coupons in the system. She looked around for help. The manager, Dave, was nowhere to be seen. Angela was still dealing with the spill. The other cashiers were busy with their own customers. Is there a problem? The woman asked, tapping her foot impatiently. I'm sorry, it's my first day. Let me try toe. Oh, for heaven's sake. The woman snatched her coupons back. I'll go to register 3. They know what they're doing there. By lunchtime, Linda had made numerous mistakes. She had incorrectly bagged items, couldn't find produce codes, and struggled with credit card payments. Her line grew longer and longer as customers became increasingly frustrated. When it was time for her 30-minute break, Linda's hands were shaking. She found the employee break room at the back of the store and nearly gasped when she entered. The small room had a single table covered in food stains. The refrigerator door didn't close properly. The microwave was caked with splattered food. A sign on the wall read, Your mother doesn't work here. Clean up after yourself. But clearly no one had cleaned anything in months. Linda sat down with the sandwich she had brought and opened her notebook. As Sarah, she had always prided herself on National Mart's employee benefits and working conditions. The company manual described break rooms as comfortable spaces for team members to recharge. This room was anything but comfortable. First date, huh? Linda looked up to see a young woman in a National Mart vest sitting across from her. That obvious? Linda asked with a small smile. I'm Zoe, been here 6 months. She lowered her voice. Word of advice? Don't bother trying too hard. Nobody notices. What do you mean? Zoe shrugged. Management doesn't care as long as the registers have enough cash at the end of the day. Dave's usually in his office watching sports on his phone. Linda felt her stomach tighten. What about customer service? Employee training? Zoe laughed. Those corporate videos they make us watch. Pure fantasy. Last month I found mice in the storage room. Told Dave 3 times. Nothing happened. After lunch, Linda was assigned to stock shelves. Within an hour, her back was aching from lifting heavy boxes. She noticed that many products were placed in the wrong sections, price tags were missing, and some items were months past their expiration dates. When she pointed this out to her supervisor, Rick, he just shrugged. We don't have enough staff to fix everything. Just put the new stuff in front. That evening, Linda dragged herself back to her rented apartment. Her feet throbbed, her back hurt, and her mind was racing. She removed her disguise and became Sarah again, if only for a few hours. She opened her laptop and made detailed notes about everything she had seen. Poor training, inadequate staffing, terrible working conditions. No wonder customers were taking their business elsewhere. The next day was no better. On her 3rd day, Linda overheard 2 employees talking about stealing merchandise. Just take the small stuff, one was telling the other. No one checks the inventory anyway. By the end of her first week at store number 114, Sarah had seen enough. It was time to move to another location. She arranged for Linda to be transferred to store number 89 in the next city, claiming she needed to move to be closer to a sick relative. What she had learned so far was deeply troubling, but Sarah suspected things might be even worse elsewhere in her crumbling retail empire. Store number 89 in Detroit was Linda's 3rd assignment in her undercover journey. The first 2 stores had shown her problems she never imagined existed in her company. She had witnessed managers who spent their days hiding in offices, employees who openly stole merchandise, and working conditions that would make health inspectors cringe. As Linda Matthews, Sarah Chen had experienced what it truly meant to be a low-level employee at National Mart. Her feet ached constantly. Customers yelled at her for problems she couldn't fix. Managers treated her like she was stupid. For the first time in 15 years, Sarah understood why her company was failing. It was raining heavily when Linda arrived for her first morning shift at store number 89. The location was in a struggling neighborhood on Detroit's east side. The building was old, the parking lot full of potholes. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered, giving everything a sickly glow. You the new transfer? Asked a tired-looking woman at the customer service desk. I'm Patty, assistant manager. You're on register 6 today. Linda nodded, already expecting the worst. This store looked even more run-down than the others. As she walked toward the registers, she noticed the usual problems. Messy shelves, confused customers with no one helping them, employees checking their phones instead of working. Register 6 was at the end of the checkout area. As Linda approached, She was surprised to see that unlike the other registers, this one was spotlessly clean. The counter gleamed. The credit card reader had been wiped free of fingerprints. Even the scanner glass sparkled. A young man was carefully arranging paper bags at the bagging area. He looked up when Linda approached. "You must be Linda, the new transfer," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Elijah. We're sharing Register 6 today so I can show you the ropes." Linda was taken aback by his friendly greeting. "Yes, that's me. Nice to meet you, Elijah. Did anyone give you a tour of the store yet?" When Linda shook her head, Elijah looked at his watch. "We have 15 minutes before we open. Let me show you around real quick." As they walked through the store, Linda noticed something strange. Employees who had been slouching and looking bored stood up straighter when they saw Elijah. He greeted each by name, often asking about their families or mentioning something specific to them. "How's your mom doing after her surgery, Tamika?" he asked a young woman stocking freezers. "Much better, thanks for asking, Elijah," she replied with a genuine smile. In the break room, Elijah showed Linda where to put her lunch. Unlike the other stores, this break room was surprisingly clean. "We take turns cleaning it," Elijah explained. "Management doesn't provide cleaning supplies, so we bring our own." When they returned to Register 6, Elijah gave Linda a thorough explanation of the register system. He showed her shortcuts and tricks that no one at the previous stores had bothered to mention. "See this button combination? It lets you void an item without calling a manager. Saves everyone time," he explained. "And if you press these two together, it gives you the produce codes alphabetically." Linda was amazed. These simple tricks would have saved her countless embarrassing moments at the other stores. "How long have you worked here?" she asked. 8 months, Elijah replied. "Not very long, but I try to learn something new every day." As the store opened and customers began to arrive, Linda watched Elijah in action. He greeted each person with genuine warmth. He remembered regular customers' names. When an elderly man approached with a complicated return, Elijah handled it efficiently while still being kind and patient. During a quiet moment, Linda asked, "Did you have previous retail experience?" Elijah shook his head. "No, this is my first real job, but my foster mom always said that whatever job you do it with your whole heart." Foster mom, Linda made a mental note. There was clearly more to Elijah's story. By lunchtime, Linda had learned more from Elijah than from all her previous training combined. But it wasn't just his knowledge that impressed her, it was his attitude. In a company where most employees seemed defeated and bitter, Elijah genuinely cared about his work and the people around him. Sarah, hidden beneath Linda's disguise, felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since going undercover. If National Mark could hire someone like Elijah, maybe there was still hope for her company after all. The next morning, Linda arrived at store number 89 10 minutes early and was surprised to find Elijah already there. He wasn't scheduled to start for another half hour, but he was busy wiping down all the registers and checkout areas. "Morning, Linda," he called cheerfully. "Thought I'd get a head start today. The early shift yesterday left things a bit messy." Linda joined him, grabbing a cloth to help. "You do this often? Come in early, I mean?" Elijah nodded. "Most days, I like when things are clean and organized for customers. Makes their shopping easier." "Do you get paid for this extra time?" Linda asked, already knowing the answer. "No," Elijah laughed, "but it's worth it. Makes the day go better when you start right." As they worked side by side, Linda noticed Elijah's shoes were badly worn, with the sole of one starting to separate from the upper. His uniform, while clean, had been patched in several places. The store opened, and the day became busy. Linda watched as Elijah handled each customer with the same care and attention, whether they were spending $5 or $500. He had a natural way of making people feel important. Around noon, an elderly woman came to their register. She was small, maybe in her 80s, with a walker and a confused expression. Her items included basic groceries, bread, milk, canned soup, and cat food. "Hello, Mrs. Peterson," Elijah greeted her. "Did you find everything you needed today?" "I think so, dear," she said, her hands trembling as she searched her purse for her wallet. Linda rang up the items, which came to $24.87. Mrs. Peterson handed over her credit card. When Linda ran it, the machine declined the transaction. "I'm sorry, but your card was declined," Linda said gently. Mrs. Peterson's face crumpled. That can't be right. I know I paid my bill. She began searching through her purse again, growing more agitated. I don't understand. I need these groceries. My whiskers needs to eat. People in line behind her began to shift impatiently. Linda saw the manager, Mr. Torres, watching from his office door with an annoyed expression. Let me try again, Linda said, running the card a second time. Again, it was declined. Mrs. Peterson's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to do. I walked all the way here. I can't come back tomorrow. Before Linda could respond, Elijah stepped in. Mrs. Peterson, why don't you come have a seat over at our cafe area? I'll help you sort this out. He looked at Linda. Can you cover for me for a few minutes? As Linda handled the rest of the line, she watched Elijah lead Mrs. Peterson to a small table in the store's cafe section. He grabbed her a cup of water, then sat with her, holding her hand as she dabbed at her eyes. 10 minutes later, Linda saw Elijah walk Mrs. Peterson to the customer service desk. He pulled out his own wallet and handed the cashier some money. The cashier bagged Mrs. Peterson's groceries, and Elijah carried them out to help her get a taxi. When he returned, Linda asked, Did you just pay for her groceries? Elijah shrugged. Her social security check hasn't arrived yet. She was really worried about her cat. It's not a big deal. That was really kind of you, Linda said. My foster mom always said small kindnesses keep the world going, he replied. Later that afternoon, Mr. Torres, the store manager, called Elijah into his office. Linda couldn't hear what was said, but when Elijah returned, his face was tense. Everything okay? She asked. Got written up for abandoning my post, he said quietly. Mr. Torres said helping Mrs. Peterson wasn't part of my job description and that the cafe area is for paying customers only. That's ridiculous, Linda exclaimed. You are helping someone in need. Elijah forced a smile. It's my third write-up this month. All for helping customers. One more and I could lose my job. He straightened his name tag. But I'm not going to stop doing what's right. After their shift ended, Linda watched as Elijah used his break time to carry groceries for another elderly customer to her car, despite the pouring rain. When he returned, soaking wet but smiling, Linda realized she found something extraordinary in the most unexpected place. Sarah, beneath her Linda disguise, felt both proud and deeply ashamed. Proud that someone like Elijah worked for her company, but ashamed of the system that punished rather than rewarded such exceptional humanity. 3 days after the incident with Mrs. Peterson, Linda and Elijah were assigned to the late shift together. The store was quiet, with only a few customers browsing the aisles. Outside, heavy rain pounded against the windows, keeping most shoppers at home. Looks like we'll have time to organize the candy aisle tonight, Elijah said, looking around at the empty store. It's been a mess since Halloween clearance. Linda nodded, thinking how different Elijah was from other employees she'd met. While others saw slow shifts as a chance to hide and check their phones, Elijah saw them as opportunities to improve the store. At 8:30 p.m., their manager announced a late dinner break for both of them since the store was so empty. Linda had brought a sandwich, but Elijah pulled out only a small apple and a packet of crackers. Is that all you're eating? Linda asked as they sat in the break room. Elijah smiled. I'm fine, trying to save money this month. Linda remembered his worn-out shoes and patched uniform. She reached into her bag and pulled out half of her sandwich. Please, I can't finish all of mine. It would just go to waste. After a moment's hesitation, Elijah accepted. Thanks, Linda. That's really kind of you. As they ate, Linda decided to learn more about this unusual young man who had impressed her so much. So, you mentioned a foster mom before. Did you grow up in foster care? Something flickered across Elijah's face, a moment of guarded caution, before he nodded. Yeah, entered the system when I was 7. My mom had drug problems, and my dad was never in the picture. I'm sorry, Linda said softly. Don't be. I was luckier than most. Had some good foster families, especially my last one. Miss Harriet took in older boys that nobody wanted. Taught me everything important I know. Like what? Linda asked. Like how to treat people with dignity no matter who they are. How to work hard without complaining. How to find joy in small things. His eyes grew distant. She died 2 years ago. Cancer, but I still hear her voice in my head every day. Linda noticed how Elijah's posture changed when he talked about Miss Harriet. He sat taller, with pride. What happened after you left foster care? She asked. Elijah's smile faded. That's when things got tough. You age out at 18, and suddenly you're on your own. No safety net. I had some small savings from odd jobs, but it wasn't enough for college. He took a bite of sandwich, chewing slowly. Tried to get an apartment with 2 other guys from the system, but one stopped paying rent and disappeared. We got evicted. Spent 3 months sleeping in my car before it got repossessed. Linda felt her heart tighten. You were homeless? Elijah nodded matter-of-factly. For about 6 months. Shelters when I could get in, under bridges when I couldn't. He said it without self-pity, as if simply stating the weather. How did you end up at National Mart? Linda asked. Applied to 37 places. Nobody wants to hire someone with no address, no phone, and no experience. He smiled. But then I met Mr. Gonzalez, who was manager here before Mr. Torres. He took a chance on me, said he saw something in my eyes. Elijah looked down at his hands. National Mart gave me a lifeline when nobody else would. My first paycheck, I cried right there at the bank. Could finally afford a room in a shared house, a cheap phone. Started building a life. Linda felt a lump forming in her throat. Sarah Chen, CEO of National Mart, had never understood the true impact her company could have on someone's life. Do you like working here? She asked quietly. Most days, yes, Elijah answered honestly. The pay isn't great, and some of the managers don't care much about employees or customers. But I like helping people, and I have a dream. What's your dream? Linda leaned forward. I want to go to college, study business management, maybe run my own store someday. His eyes lit up. I create a place where employees are valued, where customers feel welcome, where kindness matters more than cutting corners. He looked slightly embarrassed. Probably sounds naive. No, Linda said, her voice thick with emotion. It sounds perfect. Their break ended, and they returned to the quiet store. As they worked side by side organizing shelves, Linda watched Elijah. His careful attention to detail, his genuine greeting to each late-night customer, his patience with a confused elderly man looking for medication. Sarah, beneath her Linda disguise, made a silent promise. This young man's dream would not be wasted. Not if she had anything to do with it. Elijah walked slowly to the stage, his legs feeling like they might give way at any moment. The spotlight was blinding. His mind was spinning. For weeks, he had been working alongside the CEO of National Mart without knowing it. Sarah smiled and took his hand. You will, she turned back to the audience. Today marks a new beginning for National Mart, she announced. Based on what I've seen in our stores, we are making immediate changes. She nodded to Mark, who clicked to the next slide. It showed a list of new company policies. First, all employees will receive a 15% raise, effective immediately. Gasps and scattered applause filled the room. Second, we are investing $50 million to renovate our stores, starting with break rooms and employee facilities. More applause, louder this time. Third, we're launching a new training program created by people who actually work in our stores, not by executives who haven't been on the sales floor in years. Sarah looked at Elijah. And to lead this transformation, I've created a new position, Director of Employee Development and Customer Service Excellence. She turned to face Elijah directly. Elijah Johnson, I'm offering you this position with a starting salary of $120,000 per year. The room erupted. Elijah's knees nearly buckled. He gripped the podium for support. Me, he whispered. But I'm just a cashier. You're much more than that, Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. You're the heart and soul of what National Mart should be. Tears filled Elijah's eyes. I don't have a college degree. I don't have management experience. You have something more valuable, Sarah replied. You have integrity, compassion, and vision. The rest can be learned. She turned back to the audience. But that's not all. Today, National Mart is launching the Elijah Johnson Scholarship Fund. This program will provide full college tuition for employees who want to further their education while working for us. The applause was deafening now. Many employees were on their feet. And the first recipient of this scholarship, Sarah continued, is Elijah Johnson himself, who will attend business school while working in his new role. Elijah couldn't hold back his tears anymore. His whole body shook as Sarah hugged him. The employees gave him a standing ovation. "I can't believe this is happening," he whispered. "Believe it," Sarah said. "You changed my perspective on everything, Elijah. Now we're going to change National Mart together." 1 year later, the Detroit Free Press headline read, "National Mart named #1 employer in retail industry." The article featured a photo of Sarah Chen and Elijah Johnson cutting a ribbon at the opening of a new flagship store. National Mart's stock price had doubled. Customer satisfaction scores were at an all-time high. Employee turnover had dropped by 70%. Sarah stood in the gleaming new store number 89, watching as Elijah trained a group of new managers. His confidence had grown, but his humility and kindness remained the same. "The most important person in this store isn't me, or you, or even the store manager," he was telling them. "It's the customer who walks through that door. Treat them with dignity, no matter who they are or how much they're spending." Later, at a small celebration in the break room, now a comfortable space with real furniture and a clean kitchen, Sarah pulled Elijah aside. "I have something to show you," she said, leading him to the front of the store. There, on the wall next to the entrance, was a large framed photograph of an elderly African-American woman with a warm smile. "Miss Harriet," Elijah gasped, his hand going to his mouth. Beneath the photo was a plaque that read, "In honor of Harriet Johnson, who taught a young boy that kindness matters. Her legacy lives on in every National Mart store through the values she instilled in Elijah Johnson." Elijah touched the frame gently, tears streaming down his face. "She would be so proud of you," Sarah said softly. "Thank you," Elijah whispered, "for everything." "No, Elijah," Sarah replied. "Thank you. You saved more than just my company. You reminded me why we exist in the first place, to serve people, not just sell things." As they walked back into the store, they passed Mrs. Peterson, now employed part-time as a greeter. She waved cheerfully. In the bustling, bright store, employees smiled genuinely at customers. Managers worked alongside their teams on the floor. The National Mart logo, once just a corporate symbol, now stood for something real, a place where everyone belonged, where kindness was valued above all, and where one person really could make a difference. The undercover boss experiment had ended, but its impact would last forever. Sometimes, the most valuable employees aren't found in the boardroom. They're at the cash register, quietly changing the world one customer at a time. Elijah walked slowly to the stage, his legs feeling like they might give way at any moment. The spotlight was blinding. His mind was spinning. For weeks, he had been working alongside the CEO of National Mart without knowing it. Sarah smiled and took his hand. "You will," she turned back to the audience. "Today marks a new beginning for National Mart," she announced. "Based on what I've seen in our stores, we are making immediate changes." She nodded to Mark, who clicked to the next slide. It showed a list of new company policies. First, all employees will receive a 15% raise, effective immediately. Gasps and scattered applause filled the room. Second, we are investing $50 million to renovate our stores, starting with break rooms and employee facilities. More applause, louder this time. Third, we're launching a new training program created by people who actually work in our stores, not by executives who haven't been on the sales floor in years. Sarah looked at Elijah. "And to lead this transformation, I've created a new position, Director of Employee Development and Customer Service Excellence." She turned to face Elijah directly. "Elijah Johnson, I'm offering you this position, with a starting salary of $120,000 per year." The room erupted. Elijah's knees nearly buckled. He gripped the podium for support. "Me," he whispered, "but I'm just a cashier." "You're much more than that," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "You're the heart and soul of what National Mart should be." Tears filled Elijah's eyes. "I don't have a college degree. I don't have management experience." "You have something more valuable," Sarah replied. "You have integrity, compassion, and vision. The rest can be learned." She turned back to the audience. "But that's not all. Today, National Mart is launching the Elijah Johnson Scholarship Fund. This program will provide full college tuition for employees who want to further their education while working for us." The applause was deafening now. Many employees were on their feet. And the first recipient of this scholarship, Sarah continued, is Elijah Johnson himself, who will attend business school while working in his new role. Elijah couldn't hold back his tears anymore. His whole body shook as Sarah hugged him. The employees gave him a standing ovation. "I can't believe this is happening," he whispered. "Believe it," Sarah said. "You changed my perspective on everything, Elijah. Now we're going to change National Mart together." 1 year later, the Detroit Free Press headline read, "National Mart named #1 employer in retail industry." The article featured a photo of Sarah Chen and Elijah Johnson cutting a ribbon at the opening of a new flagship store. National Mart's stock price had doubled. Customer satisfaction scores were at an all-time high. Employee turnover had dropped by 70%. Sarah stood in the gleaming new store number 89, watching as Elijah trained a group of new managers. His confidence had grown, but his humility and kindness remained the same. "The most important person in this store isn't me, or you, or even the store manager," he was telling them. "It's the customer who walks through that door. Treat them with dignity, no matter who they are or how much they're spending." Later, at a small celebration in the break room, now a comfortable space with real furniture and a clean kitchen, Sarah pulled Elijah aside. "I have something to show you," she said, leading him to the front of the store. There, on the wall next to the entrance, was a large framed photograph of an elderly African-American woman with a warm smile. "Miss Harriet," Elijah gasped, his hand going to his mouth. Beneath the photo was a plaque that read, "In honor of Harriet Johnson, who taught a young boy that kindness matters. Her legacy lives on in every National Mart store through the values she instilled in Elijah Johnson." Elijah touched the frame gently, tears streaming down his face. "She would be so proud of you," Sarah said softly. "Thank you," Elijah whispered, "for everything." "No, Elijah," Sarah replied. "Thank you. You saved more than just my company. You reminded me why we exist in the first place, to serve people, not just sell things." As they walked back into the store, they passed Mrs. Peterson, now employed part-time as a greeter. She waved cheerfully. In the bustling, bright store, employees smiled genuinely at customers. Managers worked alongside their teams on the floor. The National Mart logo, once just a corporate symbol, now stood for something real, a place where everyone belonged, where kindness was valued above all, and where one person really could make a difference. The undercover boss experiment had ended, but its impact would last forever. Sometimes, the most valuable employees aren't found in the boardroom. They're at the cash register, quietly changing the world one customer at a time.